Coming to you today with a bit of breaking news. We've actually had a really big shift from Tesla on how they structure full self-driving, autopilot, all of that. Famously, just recently, full self-driving was announced to be coming to a close. You can no longer buy full self-driving starting February 14th. You can only subscribe, but last night, they took it a step further. And I want to share with you this news because this is kind of a big deal. It seems kind of small if you're full in on FSD, but for everybody else, this is kind of a head scratcher. Although I have some ideas of what's driving this decision, we'll just take a look here and you let me know what you think. So first, let's start over here on X because this is where the big announcement comes from. Of course, we already know FSD is going to subscription only after February 14th. However, last night, they've decided that Autopilot is no longer a thing. In fact, they've removed it completely, and that was effective immediately. The thing is, when the standard Model Y and the standard Model 3 recently released, they came with traffic-aware cruise control only. That means no basic autopilot. The car doesn't keep itself in its lane. It only can speed up and slow down based on the traffic in front of it. This is the same thing, but now all models, premium, performance, all of it. This is a big shift. Autopilot has been a basic feature for many, many years, and full self-driving, which takes lane keep and boosts it to some pretty incredible capabilities. That's been kind of the two options. You get the car basic with lane keep assist, and now it's only traffic aware cruise control. It's also important to note that today you can still buy FSD outright, and you're going to be able to do that all the way to February 14th. But once that ends, it's going to be subscription only. And today that price is $99 a month, which if you're going to use it is not a terrible deal. However, we had some more comments on this from Elon himself last night. And yeah, there's two things here that Elon is saying. Number one, he's saying, just remember this $99 a month is not going to stick around forever. Price is going to go up. Now that's pretty obvious as capabilities continue to enhance and become more capable. Presumably you could charge more money. And that's what he's saying here. Don't forget, we're going to charge more money. However, he's also saying unsupervised FSD. And that means being able to sit in your car, play games on your phone, sleep in the back while the car just drives you with no input and no paying attention. That is huge if that is indeed where we're headed. That is a very big difference between what FSD is able to do today and what he's saying we're headed to. This is a big shift from what FSD can do today. FSD today allows you to sit here, and as long as you are paying attention, it will do everything. You don't have to touch the wheel. You don't have to interact with the car. You just have to keep your eyes on the road. Once we get to unsupervised, it's one thing to take your eyes off of the road. It's a completely another thing to be able to sleep in the back or play video games or whatever, pay zero attention, not even sit in the driver's seat. And that's kind of what he's saying here. The massive value jump is when you can be on your phone or sleeping for the entire ride. And that is obviously going to be hugely popular if FSD is able to ultimately achieve that in the near future. Now, coming over here to Tesla's website, they've already made a number of changes. In fact, when you load the site, the first screen that pops up is actually showing you FSD in action, which is kind of fun. That's kind of cool. I think it's smart. So you don't even see the cars first, which is a change, but there you go. There's the cars. And then if you go into these now, this is where you'll start to see some of these changes in real time. So taking a look at the Model 3 here as an example, if we go to compare features and we compare the models here at the bottom, we used to have a whole section that talked about driver assistance. However, now included with all trims, traffic aware cruise control automatically maintains your set speed while responding to the flow of traffic. Right there, all trims. This was added for the standard Model 3 and the standard Model Y, basically short of autopilot. Everything else comes standard with autopilot. That's no longer the case, effective right now. Every new Tesla that's ordered starting now does not come with autopilot, and that is pretty big shift, and it doesn't give you any option to upgrade to it either. Now, like before, you can still at this time add full self-driving as a one-time purchase, $8,000, or you can subscribe from it right off the bat. Now, every new car comes with a month of free FSD, so you don't really have to do monthly subscription from delivery. You can always add it later, but one-time purchase, this will go away on February 15th. So keep that in mind. This is going to be sunset. And what's unfortunate about that is when you don't get it, you don't even get basic autopilot, which is a huge bummer. Now, $8,000, is that a good deal? I don't know. Basically, Tesla is moving away from offering full self-driving as a one-time purchase. That could possibly never come back, and it's certainly not going to be available in the near future. So February 15th and forward, for an unspecified amount of time, possibly permanently, you will not be able to buy FSD anymore. So that means cars that have FSD, perhaps they'll finally start to see an increase in value for having FSD active on the car, because right now you're talking very little money in comparison to what it costs for the one-time purchase. So again, taking a deeper dive here, they've done a lot of work to really start to try to show exactly what FSD is. And I think that Tesla continues to struggle to sell this bigger picture. So example, on this whole page about FSD, it gives you some really nice, really good curated examples of FSD on what it's doing. If you don't get FSD, whether it's subscription or purchase, you get cruise control. Smart cruise control is basically what you get. I mean, no lane keep, no nothing. And at the prices for some of these vehicles, that seems pretty bad. That's an example of $58,000 performance Model Y doesn't even have lane keep assist. That's crazy. Most cars in the $40,000+ range come with lane keep or other ADAS systems on board that are part of the package in that price range. So this actually takes a lot of capability that comes standard in these cars and strips it away. Now, famously, our Cybertruck, when it delivered, it came with only full self-driving. There is no basic autopilot, and that is still the case today. So autopilot wasn't even developed for the Cybertruck, and it doesn't seem like it's ever going to be available in the Cybertruck. So it's traffic-aware cruise control, or it's full self-driving. Those are the only two ways to get it, and that is now the case for the rest of the lineup. And that is pretty crazy. Now, the bigger question is, why is Tesla doing this? Well, on one hand, a lot of people are pointing to Elon Musk's compensation package, and I don't think it's an unfair thing to point at. His goal is to achieve 10 million active FSD subscriptions, and at the moment, we're selling about 1.5 to 2 million cars a year. So there's barely 10 million cars that are even capable of FSD on the road today. And that is going to continue to be the biggest hurdle here, at least in the short term. On top of that, FSD take rate is something like 12 or 14%. So it's pretty low anyways. But you could certainly point to this new compensation package that requires 10 million active FSD subscriptions and say, that's probably why this is being pushed. However, there's another piece to this that I think makes a lot of sense. I think realistically, when you look at Tesla as a business, you have to ask the question, does it make sense to offer a one-time purchase or a subscription model? Well, that's kind of a question a lot of companies are asking themselves, at least over the last 20 years. And a lot of companies have been very successful in answering this question one specific way. Famously, Microsoft, when they moved to SaaS as a business model, they basically 5x'd the company value. And that's been replicated time and time again. So from a business perspective or an investment perspective, you would say subscription makes a lot of sense. Only offering subscription, not a permanent license, recurring revenue, all of that. The difference, however, is this isn't a commercial product. This is for personal use. So the real question is, when Tesla shifts to subscription model only, does it have that same throttling effect that it has had with a number of companies over the years? And generally, it's probably going to be a yes. And in the short term, probably not going to be anything crazy. But the other piece of this is Tesla has not been able to recognize the full value of FSD as people have purchased them. However, when people subscribe, that monthly fee they can recognize right away. And that's another big financial incentive for doing this. So it's a matter of what happens next. Can they duplicate the type of success we see in numerous companies over the last 10, 20 years that have moved to a subscription model? And I think that honestly, from a business side, I think the answer is obviously yes. Now, there is obviously people who continue to point at the compensation package. I personally think there's probably a piece of it there too, but it's not an unfair thing to say that that's probably a motivator also. But to be fair, there's not even 10 million capable cars of doing FSD anyways, so still got a bit of time to go before there's even enough cars on the road that if you had 100% take rate. So we'll just have to wait and see how this thing rolls out. But the thing is, you have to decide now if you're in the market or you have a car right now, should you buy full self-driving? And it's so hard to know exactly what to do. For me personally, I feel very comfortable that I own FSD in this truck and our Model Y, especially right now. If I did not own it, I would be having some very serious conversations with my spouse about, is it time to purchase this thing and lock it in? I think it's probably a good idea to seriously consider locking in FSD on your car if it's something you're planning to keep for quite some time. It's not a guarantee you're going to make $8,000 again in the future, but you're probably going to save a bit of money, especially when this thing does go unsupervised and those prices start going up. That break-even point is going to get really short, really fast once this thing becomes unsupervised. So let me know in the comments, is this something that Tesla's doing from a business perspective, or do you think this is all about Elon's compensation package? If you don't have full self-driving, are you going to purchase it? And if you already do, you must be feeling pretty good. Let me know in the comments. I thank you so much for joining us today. Can't wait to catch you on the next one.